Kevin Willmott and Mark von Schlemmer have spent many years working on all different kinds of films. Kevin is famous for directing The Confederate States of America, Jayhawkers, Destination Planet Negro, The Only Good Indian, and much more. Kevin is also a professor at the University of Kansas, and Mark is mainly an editor on his films while being a professor at the University of Central Missouri, teaching film. Kevin and Mark met through a TV show based in Lawrence that Mark was working on called Silhouettes, showcasing artists and musicians in that area. Kevin wanted his film Big Man to be on the station, so he came to Mark to get it on the air. After that, Mark started taking classes from Kevin at Kansas University. Mark then started to help edit Kevin's film at the time, The Confederate States of America. From there, a partnership blossomed through film.
This guy drives me crazy. I hate him. What is it? What do you always say? I hate that guy.
I hate that dude. I hate that guy. It's great. I mean, Mark is a beautiful guy to work with, and he's a great editor. But more than that, he's just a really good dude to hang out with, and so we have a lot of fun. I think we both, believe in that concept of if it turns into work, something's wrong. And I mean, sometimes we have to work really hard. Like we've had to work really hard these last couple of weeks to, because we have a deadline we're dealing with. That's the thing about, him being a really great editor and a professional. And part of that is the attitude you bring to it as well. That is a big thing, in terms of, I think, just being a professional. I mean, you get around other people, you see them get rude with people, and people lose their tempers at times, and I mean that's just
it's no fun to be around.
Oh my God.
And it doesn't help the creativity, and that to me that's the great connection we have is that we want to tell the story. If I'm working on one of his projects, I'm into it, and I want to do the best we can with it. So, and that's the great thing about working with Kevin is that it's not there's not an ego about the project. It's about how do we make this, how do we make this work? And so it's really open to my suggestions and is also got a good enough eye to say, I don't know if that's working. And he trusts me when I say, I don't think that's working either.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
it goes back and forth.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
The time.
Destination Planet Negro is a film from 2013 directed by Kevin. It takes place in 1939 and is about African American leaders reacting to the Jim Crow segregation by colonizing on the planet Mars. Instead of landing on Mars, they actually find themselves in modern-day America.
Well, we always come back to the one. Is it still your favorite?
Oh, Destination?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
Destination Planet Negro.
It's not becoming less relevant, too. I mean, that's part of it, is that it's a film that, unfortunately, we're not really living in a post-racial society. And so these things we talk about still come up in the news, and we come back and say, they got it. Still there.
That's in Destination.
They're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
So.
I tell you, I think, too, there was a freedom about Destination because it was such a low-budget film.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no budget. I mean, Mark was good enough to really just work on the film for us. And that gives you a freedom and it's just about everyone's there just because they want to do it, and that's what makes it so special, I think.
The Confederate States of America, directed by Kevin in 2004, is a film through the perspective of a British documentary, showing people what life in America would be like if the South had won the Civil War.
What we did with CSA was quite often what I would do was I would select deadlines. Like we'd say, we're going to screen it at this place on May 15th. And so we'd say, okay. And so we said we were going to screen it in Kansas City at the Rio Theater. And so we had to finish it for that deadline. And publicity was getting out. We didn't do it, it was in Kansas City Star, and a lot of people were interested in this film. And so I remember Mark, Michon was working on it, and people were just coming in to the editing bay and saying, and we'd say, we need this and we need that. And people were taking turns. We were there all day and all night for days. It was crazy. I mean, I slept there. And when we screened it at the premiere there, we weren't finished with the film. So we output half of the film, and we took it over to Kansas City and we put it in. And so there was packed theater. I mean, there was like 200 people there, 300 people there. It was like 200 people. And so we put the tape in, and it was only half of the movie. And we were finishing the other half in Lawrence as the other half was playing in Kansas City. And so we output that half and got it there just in time to stick it in the tape. And so there was no. That's funny.
Not a good plan.
Yeah, but we pulled it off.
Do what you got to do.
But it was really good for us because it really forced us to move the movie forward. If that deadline wasn't there, we wouldn't have probably. We still might be working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when Mark's willingness to try things. I mean, I've worked with other editors, and it can be frustrating when they don't want to try it. And I mean, it may be a bad idea, it may not work, probably won't work, but at least when we try it, it's, as Mark is saying, it's part of the really the art of editing. For me, I believe, is you try it and then you learn something from this attempt,
right.
And then that adds to something else, and then Mark brings something else in, and suddenly you got something that's pretty good. You gotta be kidding me. Do they know I'm 100?
Kevin Willmott will continue to keep making films while Mark von Schlemmer continues to help in the editing process. That, or until they can't stand each other anymore.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with people that want to make that choice and go live in Los Angeles. It's darker there. It's like there's fewer lights in Los Angeles. Hey, we're back. We're back. I've never seen that's what they do when they get low on battery, but that's no. Oh yeah, right. Blinking is I like this blinking.
Yeah, it's kind of
That's weird. I've never seen one that just like decides to go in and out.
If I need that part, I'll just have to
You can just
Oh, there you go.
Color correct between them.
Yeah, you show film clip. That's what we do.
Cut to the clip.